recently I encountered a statement that I sort of took objection to. It was a statement along the lines of under capitalism, a forest has no value unless it can be cut down for profit. Okay. And I was like, that's a very naive way of thinking about the economy. Um, because because value is really something that like doesn't come from businesses. It's not related to profit. Now, one thing I'll say is actually the word capitalism is probably not correct here. In a free market economy, or I'll just write a market economy, is what they really meant to say. A resource has no value unless it can be cut down for profit. Okay, and here, let me talk about this in terms of circular flow. So you've got the statement, right? And on one level, you might think, oh, yeah, this is true. The only thing that companies care about is profit. And where you might see a beautiful forest, a company just sees, well, that's useless unless we can turn it into money. Okay. And companies, though, are not really things. Everything, like, they don't have emotions. They don't see value. They don't feel greedy. They don't have a desire to make money. Companies are really just organizations of people. Everything in the economy is driven by people. And so, again, the circular flow diagram gives us a way of thinking about how goods flow around the economy. That forest is not going to get cut down just because some business sees a profit opportunity. There may be a profit opportunity, but that's because the forest would have more value in the market for goods and services than it does in the market for factors of production. Does that make sense? The company is cutting down the forest to provide something that consumers want to buy. What's going to happen to the forest? What types of things will come of it? It's going to get converted into lumber. Oh, go ahead. Paper for printing stuff. It'll get converted into lumber for houses, lumber for furniture. It'll get converted into firewood for warming houses. So that's what, like, that's where it has value. And the forest does have value to its landowner. I mean, I live in a forested area. I like my trees. Looking at my trees makes me happy. That's some value to me. Really, the forest is going to get converted from a forest into like lumber, paper, and so forth, only if it has more value to consumers as goods and services than it did as a forest to the landowner, right? Someone owns that material. Okay, so really, the values of the forest or the wood, either as a forest or as lumber, paper, and so forth, come from people. Okay, and then this business, the company that cuts down the forest, every penny it takes in from selling the wood goes back to a person. The company itself doesn't really profit. When it sells let me just say simply lumber, it sells the lumber, all that money goes to pay the person who provided the materials, like the landowner who had the trees, sold the trees. It goes to pay the workers. And then after it does those two things, usually the remainder goes to the people who paid for basically the assets of the company's owners. Okay, so all that money goes back to people. Do you understand how, like, the forest getting cut down is benefiting the consumers who get the lumber and the workers who work for the logging company, the landowner who had the trees, the people who own the logging company? All of those people mutually benefit from converting the forest into lumber. And I do love forests. I'm not saying that I hate forests, want to see them cut down. Quite the contrary. I mean, the fact that I have trees surrounding my house should indicate that I value the trees in that form more than just cutting them down for lumber. But if we go around objecting to cutting down forests for lumber, we're also objecting to people having affordable lumber to build houses that they need more badly than the landowner wanted the trees. Does all of that make sense? A little bit of sense? That's sort of my thinking about things in terms of like the economics, this sort of circular flow. Everything in the economy is about people. And that company is really an organization of people who come together. Some provide the labor, some purchase the assets and own the company, um, to convert factors of production into goods and services. Okay, so that's a little application of this circular flow model and thinking about things in terms of how stuff flows through the economy. It's not just some greedy company that sees value in cutting down trees. It's the desire of consumers to have goods and services that they value more than the factors of production were valued. Okay, so that's a little recap of that topic.